Go.
Hey everybody, Zach, if you don't know me, Jana's husband. And earlier when Jana was out here talking with you guys, I was in the house doing dishes, praying for my wife, and I felt like the Lord had given me some applications that we could use here with the illustration of our pig pen. And interestingly enough, when Jana came in, she shared a little bit of her message that she had recorded from you, and there was something that she said that really stood out to me, and that was that she wanted the Lord to take her into greener pastures, and that she wanted to dig deeper into the meat of the Word and not be left on the milk, and to enjoy the finer things of our relationship with the Lord. And it really reminded me of a story in the Bible that I'm sure most of you are familiar with, but generally we like to find literal applications within our own life. Whenever we're reading the Word and studying together and sharpening each other, we look around us and we can see the Lord and Christ in all the details within our own lives, within our circumstances and our surroundings. And so I started to share some of this with Jana, and she said, well, why don't you share it yourself? And so here I am. And so I was going to read a little bit to you from the book of Joshua, specifically chapter 3. And it says, "Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and they set out from Acacia Grove and came to the Jordan. And he and all the children of Israel and lodged there before they crossed over. So it was after 3 days that the officers went through the camp, and they commanded the people, saying, when you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, and the priests, the Levites, bearing it, then you shall set out from your place and go after it. Yet there shall be a space between you and it, about 2,000 cubits by measure. Do not come near it, that you may know the way by which you must go, for you have not passed this way before. And Joshua said to the people, sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. And then Joshua spoke to the priests, saying, take up the ark of the covenant and cross over before the people. And so they took up the ark of the covenant and went before the people. And the Lord said to Joshua, this day I will begin to exalt you in the sight of Israel, that they may know that I was with Moses, so I will be with you. You shall command the priests who bear the ark of the covenant, saying, when you have come to the edge of the water of the Jordan, you shall stand in the Jordan. So Joshua said to the children of Israel, come here and hear the words of the Lord your God. And Joshua said, by this you shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will without fail drive out from before you the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Jebusites. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth is crossing over before you into the Jordan. Now therefore take for yourselves 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one man from every tribe, and it shall come to pass, as soon as the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of the Lord of all the earth, shall rest in the waters of the Jordan, that the waters of the Jordan shall be cut off, the waters that come down from upstream, and they shall stand as a heap. And so it was, when the people set out from their camp to cross over the Jordan with the priests bearing the ark of the covenant before the people. And as those who bore the ark came to the Jordan, and the feet of the priests who bore the ark dipped in the edge of the water, for the Jordan overflows all its banks during the whole time of harvest, that the waters which came down from upstream stood still and rose in a heap very far away at Adam, and the city that is beside Zeratan. So the waters that went down into the sea of Arabah, the salt sea, failed and were cut off, and the people crossed over opposite Jericho. And so what reminded me was when Jana said that she wanted this meat, and here the nation of Israel, they were in Egypt, in bondage, in slavery, entrapped, enclosed in their circumstances. And here, these pigs are in the same situation. And so they had their enclosure, they've been imprisoned in this enclosure, and yet they've got so much freedom just outside these walls. And all they have to go is take that land. There's nothing preventing them from going, but yet me and Jana, we have a purpose for these pigs. We really do. Our hope, our goal is that they will go and do what God has given them naturally to do, and that is to turn over soil. and that they would disturb the soil enough to turn up a 1,000-year-old seed bank, and that new grasses would grow. And that in doing so, in turning up that soil, that new life would spring forth. And so just like this nation of Israel, God has proven himself faithful. He has brought them out of the nation of Egypt, where they were in bondage. He's brought them to this obstacle where they're crossing over into the promised land. Not just any land, but a land that's full of milk and honey. We've got grapes the size of bowling balls. They know what's there. They know that God is faithful. They know that he's provided. They know he's got a plan for them, and he lays it out to them specifically. And he says, and I lost my place, but he tells them exactly what he's going to do. And not only is he doing it for a test, but he's doing it to prove himself faithful to him. He's given them a promise within the test. And so their part is to step out. And so knowing the rivers, I don't know if you have any rivers near you, but we have a river right across the road, and during the early spring, it floods its banks. And it's vicious. It's very aggressive. And so here the nation of Israel is standing at the banks of a flooding river, and God's saying, go in. And so to me, seeing the rivers around here, and they're not even that big of rivers, but seeing how violent these rivers are, the fear of actually stepping forth into that water could be terrifying.
And it's not just step in. He's saying step in first, and then I will move.
But the promise is given.
Yep.
The provision is made. They only have to act on what the Lord has given them, what he has told them, right? So his word is true, he is faithful. And them knowing that, it shouldn't have been a fear, but I don't know anybody that wouldn't be hesitant to step into a flooding river. And so here we have these pigs, and we have this promised land. And that was what kind of reminded me, because right now, what you probably can't see is that we have these green bushes that are out in the pastures, and these bushes are full of berries. You can't walk through this grass that's full of seed heads, which is a great protein source for these pigs. The food is abundant. You step in the grass and there's grasshoppers that are going everywhere. They eat bugs, they eat grubs, they eat seed heads, and they love berries. And so these bushes are ginormous, especially down in these bottoms. They're humongous. These pigs could live in there. They would have a new shelter. They would have a new food source. Something that is going to taste better to them than the stale grain that we're giving them. And yet here we are. Here's a perfect example. We've got one who's buried its face in some store-bought grain. We've
eating candy bars.
That's standing over here in the mud. And then walk with me if you would. I would like to kind of show you the extent of where we make it to. And so this is very similar to what you might have expected to see from the nation of Israel. And here we go. 3 feet from the end of the gate. Like I said, up and right back inside. And right back inside. And so this is what we get. Occasionally they will go out, they'll wander the fence line, they know the boundary.
Yep.
They know as far as they can go, but they've made it this far. And this is really what I want all of this to look like. This might be a little bit more than what I want from them, but really, this is what I want. This is my expectation of the pigs. Currently they have, I don't know, quarter, maybe a third of an acre, something like that. And all I want them to do is turn it up a little bit. I want them to poop on it a little bit, you know, spread some seed around, and then I want to move them. And I want to move them into greener pastures. And I want to move them into the promised land, the land that we had promised to them before they were ever even born. And it's like that with us for the Lord, is it not? The Lord has a plan for us. He has a purpose for us. And he wants us to step out. He wants us to get our toes wet, and then he'll do the rest. He said he's going to heap that water up on their sides. And if you keep reading into Joshua chapter 4, we see that not only did his promise was sure, but he said, hey, stop along the way and pick up 12 stones and get those stones off of dry ground, which was the flooding river. They picked up those 12 stones on the bottom of that flooding river, and they set them up in a place called Gilgal. And they set up a monument, a looking back point where they could always refer back to and say, you know what, the Lord was faithful as we crossed over on dry ground. So for generations to come, for the children, for anyone who would ever ask, they would look back at that monument and say, the Lord was faithful. And just as much as we want to be faithful stewards of these pigs and the animals that the Lord has entrusted to us, they serve a purpose and they have a calling. And the Lord can use them just as much as he can use broken vessels like us to do his work. And for whatever reason, he's included us in his plan. And we're grateful for that. We are humbled by that. And it's to God be the glory. So hopefully that blesses some of you today. I hope you enjoy seeing, oh, there they go. They're exploring. Of all the times that we want to talk about pigs not going nowhere, there they go.
Maybe they heard you.
But they're maybe feeling guilty, a little YouTube pressure, I guess, on them that they need to get to work. But I hope you enjoy this.
They heard the message of greener pastures and more. They want more too.
It's not super green right now. It's been a hot, dry year, but ultimately the seed heads, the things that they need for sustenance are definitely there, and there's much more just beyond the bin there. But this is what pigs are designed to do, and we enjoy watching them do it. So, and if we can share the gospel while they're doing it, even better, right?
That's right, from the Pig Pen Pulpit, right?
So be blessed. We love you guys. Thanks for tuning in.